Today I'll be giving a persuasive speech on minimum wage. $44,012.80. That is the amount that a minimum wage worker would earn this year in the United States if the minimum wage had kept up with inflation. That is roughly $21 an hour, well above the $15 an hour mark currently being pushed for by lawmakers and protesters. Obviously, a $21 minimum wage will not be happening anytime soon, but it leaves one to wonder, how much should minimum wage workers actually be earning in order to live a fairly comfortable life? Should they in fact be making $15 an hour? I would like to argue that no, they should not. In my persuasive speech, I hope to convince the audience that raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour would be damaging to our country. Specifically, I will address the effects that a high minimum wage would have on business owners, the problems it would create in the job market, and the issues our economy would inevitably face if this law were passed. Firstly, it's important to understand the origins of minimum wage. It was originally established in 1938 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt under the Fair Labor Standards Act. Defined by the Department of Labor, minimum wage at the time was the lowest amount of money an employer could pay a worker per hour based on a 40-hour work week. It was designed as an entry-level wage, and this is the model we have continued to follow throughout the years. The subject of minimum wage has been gaining a lot of attention recently, largely because there has not been an increase in wage in some time. According to the Department of Labor, the federal minimum wage was last increased to $7.25 an hour on July 24, 2009. Even though we are hearing a lot of chatter on the subject, it is imperative to understand that the current federal minimum wage is enough to keep a single adult above the poverty line when they are employed full-time. However, not all workers making minimum wage are working to support only themselves. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 27% of minimum wage workers are also supporting another individual, and it is this predicament that has led to rallies and protests for higher pay. Let's talk about the effect that a high minimum wage requirement would have on business owners. For many small and local businesses, a higher minimum wage would equal the need to raise their prices in order to pay their workers. In some cases, business owners won't raise prices, often out of customer loyalty. In this case, shop owners may end up having to cut into their profits in order to pay their workers $15 an hour. This decrease in profit could then snowball into layoffs, cutting hours and benefits, and cutting out future pay raises. A $15 minimum wage would most certainly equal disaster for middle-class business owners. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the percentage of the workforce that actually makes the exact current minimum wage fell from 4.3% in 2012 to 3.9% in 2014. This means that employers are already trying hard to give their employees raises or to start them out at a slightly above minimum wage pay. Yet this doesn't seem to be enough to appease employees across the nation. Business owners are not the only group that would suffer from such an increase. Let's now examine what a $15 an hour wage would mean for the worker. It's true, $15 an hour sounds fantastic, but such high pay at an entry level would actually have several negative repercussions for the employee. With business owners being forced to lay off or freeze hiring, it would mean fewer jobs available, thus creating tougher competition for people applying for work. Additionally, a starting wage of $15 an hour would help retain employees and decrease turnover, which would once again result in a tougher market for someone looking for a job. Another negative outcome could be that such a high wage would not leave much room for an employer to give future raises and would ultimately result in a loss of worker motivation to advance to do better. However, in a 2015 survey conducted by the Department of Labor, it was noted that small business owners generally reacted favorably to increasing the minimum wage, but only under the conditions that it was a gradual increase up to a limit of $12 an hour. Now that we've discussed the effects on both the business owner and the worker, let's move towards the effects that our economy would surely face. Firstly, with such a high starting wage, teens and young adults entering the workforce could be more likely to postpone or even decide against going to college. College debt may not seem like a worthwhile burden to take on when they are guaranteed a good wage without college. In some cases, even after receiving a college diploma, they would be making about the same salary that they would be able to make at their entry-level job. This would lead to less college grads, shortages in career fields, and a major blow for the U.S. economy. Secondly, the rippling effects of such a high minimum wage could mean the loss of thousands of jobs in cities all over the country, leading to a higher unemployment rate. It's easy to see that a hike in minimum wage looks great on the surface, but when we stop to examine what effects an increase in wage would have, we can see that it would be detrimental, especially all at once in such a large amount. Today I have spoken about the choices a business owner would have to make in deciding to employ a large staff and sacrificing profits or cutting back on the help to help keep his profits stable. I outlined some of the reasons that the worker would suffer, including difficulty in finding work in a tough market. And lastly, I explained some of the challenges we would face as a nation when our economy starts to suffer as a direct result of a high starting wage. According to the Department of Labor, minimum wage increases were never meant to keep up with inflation. Almost the second that minimum wage increases, so does the cost of living. It is therefore impractical to think that minimum wage would ever be enough to give someone a completely comfortable life. If this were so, there would be no motivation for personal career growth. As I said earlier, minimum wage should be viewed as a starting point, a stepping stone to something greater, not the end-all be-all answer to our financial woes. I encourage all of you to learn more, find out why $15 an hour is unrealistic right now, and get involved in the movement to stop this increase from happening. Get involved in rallies and where possible vote against legislation and make your voice heard. Let's get back to actually working for a better life, earning those pay increases gradually, and being more conscientious of what our actions here will mean for the future of the working class of the United States. Thank you.